Week 3 of the 2023 college football season is wrapped up, and so today I'll be giving you guys my Week 4 college football rankings. The third week of action has wrapped up, and this was a week that heading in really didn't have super high expectations. I mean, really no major matchups at all, just a whole bunch of non-conference games. But we almost saw a lot of major upsets in this week as well. A lot of games were way closer than they should have been, and even a couple of big upsets as well. So with that, we'll be ranking the teams as we look forward to Week 4, which turns out to be one of the biggest weeks of the season coming up. So with that, let's get started with 1 through 7. Georgia remains number 1. This team beat South Carolina 24-14. But it was a slow start for the Bulldogs there. 14-3. South Carolina led it at halftime, but in the second half, Georgia's defense came through and they scored some points, got it done in the end, 24-14. But, I mean, Georgia's a team that offensively hasn't been terribly impressive so far this season. Defensively, great as always. It's just when is the offense going to click for this team? And same with Michigan. Wolverines are kind of in the same boat there. Offensively, haven't been terribly impressive, but defensively, they've gotten it done every game so far this season. Of course, Michigan has played 3 terrible teams so far. They've played East Carolina, UNLV, and then Bowling Green. Held all 3 teams under 10 points and scored in the 30s in each of them. And Michigan actually had it number 5 last week, which, as expected, there are a lot of people questioning that, but you got to consider heading into Week 3, Texas, Florida State both had signature wins. USC also was just looking better to me. But after Week 3, I do want to put Michigan back at 2. I think defensively this team is good enough to definitely be at number 2. It's just when is the offense going to click? And McCarthy, he threw, 3 picks against Bowling Green yesterday. So, that's definitely something that is a bit questionable. And moving forward into the conference slate, things are still easy going for Michigan right now. They got Rutgers this week, Nebraska, and then Minnesota on the road, Indiana at home, Michigan State on the road. Your big games in Michigan don't come until November when you got Penn State and Ohio State in a matter of the last 3 weeks. So for Michigan, this team should probably be 9-0, and if not, I would honestly be shocked at this point. But Michigan, I got them at number 2. USC's number 3. This team has played 3 games so far. Of course, they played in Week 0, had a bye week last week, and this is a team that offensively is brutal to stop. They're kind of similar to Washington in that. I think USC and Washington are 2 of the best offenses in the country. It's just defensively, can both teams be great? And if either USC or Washington are elite defensively, they could definitely win the national championship this season, as I do think USC and Washington's offenses are better than Georgia and Michigan's, especially right now. It's just defensively, I would definitely take Georgia and Michigan over vice versa, USC and Washington. But the Trojans 3-0. This is a team definitely to keep an eye on. Same with the Huskies. I feel like Washington, I've said it the last 3 weeks, the Huskies are they're not so underrated, but they're definitely a bit overlooked right now. I've got them now at number 4. They beat Michigan State this past week, 41-7. Do not underestimate Washington. Michael Penix has been incredible so far this season. This team is not disappointed. And, you look at the Pac-12 and how stacked the conference is. USC and Washington are, to me right now, your front runners for sure. We knew both USC and Washington had incredible offenses heading into this season. It was just the defense, and there was more confidence around USC's defense than Washington's heading in. So that's why USC has had higher expectations. But Washington's defense so far is not disappointed at all either. They beat Michigan State 41-7. They've dominated so far this season. So to me, you got USC, who's considered the front runner by most in the Pac-12, but Washington is the dark horse that is right there with them. I would not be surprised if the Huskies were in the playoff this season and very much in the running for a national championship. That's how good they are. Texas is number 5. They beat Wyoming 31-10. Kind of a slow start, but got it done in the end. And the Longhorns, of course, they beat Alabama in Week 2, but the way that Alabama played this past weekend was ugly. And so that kind of brings down the value of that win as of right now. But I still think Texas is a really good football team. This is the best team in the Big 12 to me right now for sure, honestly, now that Kansas State has lost. But Oklahoma is still looking pretty good, so you got to keep an eye on them. But Texas, 3-0 right now. I do have them dropping down a couple positions just because I think USC and Washington are more complete, better teams right now. But Texas is definitely right up there as well. Florida State's number 6. Beat Boston College 31-29, and I know it was a road game, but Boston College is probably the worst team in the ACC. They're definitely one of the worst, probably bottom 2. And for Florida State to have as close of a game as that was there, we all know Florida State's the better team. It's just getting it done in those matchups is crucial, especially later on in the season when the college football playoff rankings start to come out. But that was just an ugly win there, 31-29, and Boston College is a horrible team. So I do have Florida State dropping down a few positions, but I will say this as well, 2 through 6 are extremely close. Honestly, 1 through 6 with how Georgia wasn't super dominant on Saturday. So it's really, really close in that top 6 right now. Florida State could be 2 as well as they are 6 for me right now. Ohio State's number 7. This team finally started to click offensively, beat Western Kentucky 63-10. I mean, Ohio State is a team not to sleep on. I've put them at 7 the past few weeks, behind the top 6, just because I'm waiting for their offense to start clicking. And once they do, and if they can start to get some big wins against good opponents, yeah, Ohio State definitely can jump up further into the top 6. But with that, moving on to 8 through 14 now, Penn State. This is a team that dominated Illinois on the road. Illinois is really disappointed so far this season, 1-2 so far, coming off of a great 2022 season, and suddenly Illinois is looking like a team that could be one of the worst in the Big Ten. I mean, Penn State they made it look easy there, beat them 30-13, and they're 3-0 on the season. And I've said this, Penn State is a team that's right up there with Ohio State. Penn State is kind of, I would compare them to like a Washington in the Pac-12 right now. Very good football team, just a little bit overlooked right now by the top team or teams in the Big Ten right now. Notre Dame is number 9. They beat Central Michigan 41-17. Kind of a slow start as well. We saw a lot of really slow starts for some of the top teams this past week. But Notre Dame got it done 41-17. I still view this team as one of the best in the country and one that truly could make a run for the college football playoff. They are 4-0 so far. Oregon number 10. They beat Hawaii 55-10. Really like the Ducks, and they've got Colorado coming up this upcoming week. A huge game, which Colorado, what a story they have been. We'll talk more about them in a sec, but the Ducks are in the top 10 now. I still view this team, Bo Nix, really strong offense. I do have them behind Washington and USC for sure right now, but that could change moving forward as Oregon's going to have a chance against Washington coming up in about a month. LSU's number 11. They got beat Mississippi State 41-14, really dominant win. And LSU, since their disappointing week 1 loss to Florida State, really has bounced back, and they're playing pretty well. Keep an eye on them. They're not eliminated from the playoff yet. They're 2-1. Ole Miss number 12. They beat Georgia Tech 48-23. Turned out to be a dominant win in the end. And I do have Ole Miss and LSU in front of Alabama now. Ole Miss is a team that's really impressed me the past couple of weeks. Beat Tulane last week and then just beat Georgia Tech this past week, both in impressive fashion. So 3-0 for Ole Miss. I do like them in front of Alabama. I mean, Alabama's just got to get a lot of things figured out right now. I mean, defensively, it looks like this team is going to be dominant. It's just offensively, they were terrible in that matchup against South Florida. Really a slow start. Couldn't put any points up on the board against a South Florida team that's not even going to be one of the top teams in their conference, and they're in the group of 5. So, I mean, for the Crimson Tide, the quarterback situation is an issue right now, and, I mean, we'll see what happens moving forward. But as of right now, I do think Alabama is just not that good of a football team. And, I mean, defensively, they're great. It's just the offense that might hold this team back a bit this season, so I've got them at 13 for now. Utah's number 14. This team beat Weber State 31-7. Dominant win there, and I've got them moving up 3 positions into the top 15. They're 3-0 and also definitely one of the main contenders in the Pac-12. Moving on to 15 through 21, there's Oregon State. This team beat San Diego State 26-9. Overall, an impressive win for Oregon State. Offensively could have been better, but still got it done in the end. North Carolina's number 16. This team beat Minnesota 31-13. Minnesota's offense is just is just bad this season. And for the Tar Heels against a talented Minnesota defense to score 31 was definitely impressive. I got them at 16 this week. Oklahoma was dominant against Tulsa this past week, 66-17. And now with Kansas State losing, suddenly it's Oklahoma and Texas at the top of the Big 12. You probably say Texas definitely is in front of Oklahoma right now, but Sooners are not far behind. This is a talented team this season, much improved from last year, so keep an eye on OU moving forward. And same with Duke. Duke's a team that destroyed Clemson week 1, and since then they've been really impressive. Beat Northwestern 38-14. We should have seen this coming too. Riley Leonard being back for this team. They're more experienced than they were last year, and Duke is a team that's really one that could be a big contender in the ACC. Florida State's obviously way in front, but North Carolina, Duke, and Miami are 3 teams that really could be big rivals to Florida State this season. And Miami, that's another team that's not far behind. Beat Bethune-Cookman 48-7 this past week. Main reason why they're ranked is their win over Texas A&M in week 2, but Miami's been dominant otherwise. They're 3-0 on the season, and this is kind of the Miami team that we thought we were going to see last year, but they kind of disappointed, and this team they're looking pretty good so far in 2023. And there's Colorado, number 20. This team beat Colorado State 43-35. It's not too often you see the game of the day in the late window, the 9-10 p.m. Eastern window, but Colorado, it was a late game, went into double overtime, but they beat Colorado State 43-35. What a game that was. It was definitely not the cleanest game, but that was a game where a huge rivalry matchup. It was something that you typically see at the end of the season, but with everything and all the storylines heading in, it's pretty incredible what is happening in Boulder this season. And if you're a college football fan, you gotta love what Deion has done this season there. It's pretty remarkable. That's a team that was 1-11 a year ago. Worst Power 5 team, one of the worst teams in general in the country, and suddenly this team is 3-0 and very much in the conversation in the Pac-12, which is once again just a stacked conference, the second best conference in college football, I'd say, and it's pretty comfortable saying that right now. Missouri is number 21. This team is entering the rankings this week after beating Kansas State 30-27. I picked that matchup in the offseason. I said Kansas State is going to lose here. That might be one of their only losses of the season, but Missouri, it's a trap game. Tigers get the win there, and suddenly this is a Missouri team that looks like they could be a dark horse contender in the SEC. But I will say this as well. Missouri's a team that's talented, but in comparison to the SEC, it's going to be tough. And so for Mizzou, this is a team that could definitely get some noise here in the first half of the season. I see this team now being 5-0. Heading into the LSU matchup, which is in a few weeks. So, this is a Mizzou team that could be ranked top 15, close to the top 10 by the time we get to week 6 or so when they take on LSU. But down the stretch, it's not going to be easy for Mizzou. So, this team could be good this season, but I don't see them being a big contender in the SEC. But this team will definitely get some noise for now. But moving on to 22 through 25, K-State's number 22. They lost to Mizzou. They're 2-1 on the season. Still one of the best teams in the Big 12, even though that was a disappointing loss there. A 61-yard field goal, just brutal to lose on. And then Washington State's 23. This is another really solid team in the Pac-12. Beat Northern Colorado 64-21. Really, Pac-12 is just stacked with offenses. Where the SEC is the conference of defense, the Pac-12 is the conference of offense this season. The Pac-12 is just incredible across the board. Quarterbacks, everything, just insane what we're seeing out of the Pac-12. Tennessee's 24. They lost to Florida 16-29. And I kind of questioned Tennessee after that. The first 2 games, Tennessee started really slow against really just not good teams. And so that was definitely a concern for me heading into that Florida matchup. But now after losing to Florida like Tennessee did, I'm dropping them down 12 positions. I've really lost a lot of confidence in this Vols team considering how they've started this season. This is still a team with talent and potential. It's just not the same team as last year. So I've got them now at 24 as they're 2-1. UCLA is 25. This team beat NC Central 59-7. Another really strong offense. Go figure. In the Pac-12 this season, they're 3-0 and now cracked the top 25. And UCLA is another team to keep an eye on. First 5 out, I've got Clemson right outside at 26. By the way, the margin from 25 to 30 is so close. It's so close, in fact, that I actually put two teams at 30 in Fresno State and BYU. Fresno State is a team that could make a run for the New Year's Six this season. I mean, I'm just saying it now. Florida State is one of the best teams in the group of five for sure. They might be the best right now. So keep an eye on them. And Florida, I've only got them at 29 after their win over Tennessee, just because they lost in ugly fashion to Utah. But this is something to build on for Florida, so still keep an eye on them. Iowa, a little bit uncertain about their offense still, even though showed potential in week 3. Kansas still a team that I really like, even though I'm dropping them out of the rankings this week just to make room for teams that have been more impressive. And Clemson just right outside. They were actually impressive this past week over FAU. Clemson is not out yet. Keep an eye on them. If they can start to click, that's definitely a team that could be dangerous. But with that, that's going to wrap it up for my week 4 rankings. Appreciate you guys all watching. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below on this top 25. And once again, appreciate you guys all watching. Stay tuned for more from All Sports Central. Catch you on the next one.